Hi everyone, welcome back to Grow Into Your PhD. I'm Emma and I help overwhelmed researchers grow into thriving academics. Today I'll be talking to Emily Bourne, a research software engineer, about all things science and academia, but especially one secret that Emily has learned about succeeding in academia that will definitely surprise you. So if you want to hear more about this, stick around for the full interview. Here it comes. Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I have Emily Bourne. How do you pronounce it in English actually? Because I pronounce it the very French way, so I have no idea how you pronounce it properly.
Emily Bourne.
Ah, yes,
Or
like
different.
Jason Bourne,
Yeah,
obviously.
exactly. Like Jason Bourne.
So Emily is with me today. She's one of my very long-time friends from EPFL. We met during our physics studies at EPFL, and we've been friends ever since. She's still a physicist, a plasma physicist at that, and she's going to tell us all a bit more about what she does, what she likes about academia, what maybe needs a bit of changing. All of these topics we're going to discuss today in more details. So welcome, Emily. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to have you. I'm very happy to have all my friends come, you know? It's like, oh, I get to talk to you again. Let's start with the first question. This way people can just get to know you right away, because that's the purpose of the first question. So, who are you and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah. So I'm Emily Bourne and I'm a research software engineer at the CTAS group at EPFL. I don't know if you know the term research software engineer. Have you heard that before?
I mean, I can understand what it is from the
Yeah.
term.
But
I'm
it's
not sure
it's a
there are many of
relatively
them.
new idea,
Uh,
which is that in research generally you have researchers and then
mhm.
sometimes you have technicians. But sometimes you end up with researchers that write code and spend a lot of time on
And
code.
who shouldn't?
No, that's a different problem. But but there are researchers who should be writing code, but writing code and writing clean code takes a long time. That means that you don't publish at the same rate that other researchers would. And a lot of what you do is sometimes to help other researchers publish. Um,
Mhm.
And the problem with that is that those kind of people are really crucial to research, to anything numeric. But the way that research is set up at the moment, all of the KPIs, all the things that you need to hit to keep your job,
Mhm.
are designed for researchers. So for people that don't write code. So there is a group that started in the UK that have tried to create this new job title of research software engineer for researchers that are based on software engineering in order to try and uniformize this, because that's the other problem. If you're
Mhm.
looking for a job, it never says the same title, depending on where you're looking. To try
Mhm.
and then say, okay, a research software engineer needs to create research. So their KPIs should maybe be more focused on where the code can run, how fast it can run, various different things, how many people can use it, rather than how many papers you've written as a first
Mhm.
author. Maybe how many papers you've written as a 100th author because people are using your code.
And so then it's more unified both for also for funding, I guess, because that's always the question,
Yes,
right?
so it's partially about helping people keep their jobs because
Yeah.
like my supervisor from my PhD thesis writes a massive paper once every 5 or 10 years, and then she's 10th author on hundreds of papers, which is
Mm.
really good output for a research software engineer. But when people are trying to justify that you have a job as a researcher, they expect you to have at least one first author paper a year. Trying to keep that kind of job is one of the goals. And then if you're looking for a job as a research software engineer, my title when I started, I'm a HPC application expert. Somebody else that does the same job might be code acceleration expert. So everywhere you go, they have a different title, which
Mm.
makes it really hard to find the jobs, and which makes it really hard to recruit. So it's also about making sure that people understand what they're looking for and can find things. And then, yeah, but probably the financing would also follow that you would have some financing that is attributed to that specific job.
Ah, makes sense. And how did you get there? So you're now working at
So,
TPFL
so
in this
now I am working
research.
as at EPFL. I am a research software engineer. And in particular, I work in the CTAS group, which is the Scientific IT and Application Support. And I'm in the application support. And I work in the Eurofusion Advanced Computing Hub, which is a group that is designed to provide HPC application support to fusion codes in Europe. So I work on plasma physics codes and I help them improve the code so that it can run on some of the biggest supercomputers in the world.
And that's very important because that's like huge, huge codes, right? And
Yeah,
huge
huge codes
data
and
sets.
huge machines.
Yeah,
Not necessarily data sets. I usually work on simulations, so there's not
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
that much data sets, but the data output is
Yeah.
enormous.
Yeah.
Like 1 terabyte every time step, you need a big machine to save it. And if the code isn't optimized, then you're just wasting resources and using electricity for not very much. And on some of the clusters, some of the supercomputers, they analyze it and they can see that there are one or two users that use
Mm,
50% of the resources and
mm,
they're not running efficiently. And you could use 10% of the resources if it was written right. And so my role is to then help people make sure that they're only using the resources that they need and that they can get the most out of the resources that are available, which then means that they can apply to bigger computers as well, because they won't give you the hours on a massive machine if you can't prove that your code runs well.
hmm. And so, for people who don't know, basically you started with physics, then did a
Yeah,
master in computer science, and then continued with the PhD in that
yeah,
direction, basically combining both every time.
yeah. So my academic trajectory, if you will, looks very strange on paper, but it does make a bit of sense. So I have a bachelor in physics, like you said, which I got with you at EPFL in Switzerland. My master's is in computational science and engineering,
Hmm.
which was in the computer science department at Munich, but it's not always in the computer science department. The
Hmm.
equivalent course at EPFL is in the maths department. Um, and then my PhD is in applied mathematics. So on paper, I've got physics, IT, maths. But when I did computational science and engineering, my professor described that subject as you have to imagine a triangle.
Hmm.
On one corner, you have IT, and on one, you have maths, and on the other, you have whatever your chosen field is. So for me,
Yeah.
physics, and everybody places themselves somewhere on this. So
Mm.
for example, you as a theoretical physicist, I'm guessing you're somewhere over here, and then maybe you write code, so maybe you move slightly towards the middle. A numerical physicist is usually over here, and a
Hmm.
applied mathematician is usually somewhere down here if you're doing
Makes
numerical
sense.
analysis, and CSE is somewhere right in the middle, which is quite fun. It means you get to explore different aspects of things, but it has its downsides as well. It's not great for
Mhm.
imposter syndrome because every time I present myself, I'm somebody different. Um,
Yeah.
so you presented me as a plasma physicist. I don't usually present myself as a plasma
Yeah,
physicist.
it's because I kind of view you as a plasma
Yeah,
physicist, I
well, so
guess.
that's the thing. It depends quite a lot on who I'm talking to.
Mm,
So if I'm talking to a plasma physicist, I would never claim to be a plasma physicist. I
yes.
don't know enough about plasma to say that to a plasma physicist. If I'm talking to a mathematician who's interested in plasma physics, then I might be a plasma physicist because I'm not a mathematician either. And the same thing, usually I would say I'm an IT person. I write a lot of code. I spend most of my time with code. But on my corridor, there are people that maintain supercomputers and talk to me about hardware. I have no idea what they're talking about. So I tell them I'm a mathematician because that's what my PhD is, or that I'm a physicist because the other half of the people on my corridor are mathematicians.
So it's definitely worse for you
Yeah, you have
because
to
of
frame it.
the
Yeah,
kind of combination of things.
yeah,
But I feel it's still a problem that many people experience,
yeah,
like
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
being, I don't know enough about this topic to claim this topic, and I don't know enough about this topic to claim this topic. And the thing that you're actually doing is very, very narrow.
yeah.
And when you try to discuss more broadly with people of here's what I do, it becomes very hard.
Yeah, yeah, because I obviously I have this span of maths, IT, physics that's quite wide. But if I look at the plasma physicists I know, somebody working in pellets doesn't discuss very well with somebody working in theoretical physics and doesn't discuss
Yeah.
very well with someone that's very simulation based. So
Yeah.
yeah, even within a small domain, it's
Yeah.
still splintered and there are differences. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay, let's move on to question two. What's one thing that you loved about your research and one thing you appreciate about your current position?
I really like writing code. I think that's not the case for a lot of people, but I really like it.
That is
Um,
make one of us.
yeah, exactly. But I think you were talking to Caroline last week, and you
Yes.
said what you liked, both of you, what you liked is when you find the solution and you're like, yes, I did it. And that's what I like about code. You're always fixing bugs, but when you find the bug, then you go, yes. And it happens quite frequently because there's quite a lot of bugs. So, so that's nice. And then my current role means that I get to spend a lot of time on code. And one
Mm,
of the things I like about it is going back to the question of research software engineering, it's a real research software engineering role. Because at the moment, most of them, there are people that are research software engineers, but it wouldn't say that in their title. And
mm,
it's more of an aspirational thing. I should be a research software engineer. Please stop evaluating me on my papers. Whereas when I was hired, they said to me, if you're really interested in writing papers, this might not be the right job for you. That is not
mm.
what we're measuring. So then that's a good thing in my view, because that's not my job.
Okay,
Although they still let me write them if I want to.
so it's actually the same thing that you loved about your research is the same thing that you love about your current position.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
very
much.
nice that
Yeah.
you have that trajectory of I'm just following the thing that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do question three then. What were your best and worst days as a researchers, and what did each of them teach you?
Yeah. This is one of the questions I had down as the trickier questions. I
Yeah.
don't usually keep track of specific moments. I learn from it and then move on, and I don't
Mm,
dwell on it. But worst days, if I try to think about it, the only thing I can think is probably like most people, but when I was writing my PhD thesis. And it just feels like it's going on forever and ever and ever. And it's not the bit that you like about research, the writing. And then you finally think you're getting close to the end and you give it to somebody and they go, well, you need to change all of this. Oh, I'm still not done. It just feels like you're never going to reach the end.
yeah, that bit is definitely a hard part. For me, I like writing, so it wasn't the worst, but still it does go on for a very long time. And the good thing about writing is that it helps you really point a finger towards what you do understand and what you don't understand. Because if you're able to write it easily, you do understand it. If you're not, it means that you need to dig a bit deeper until you actually can, break it down. But I definitely prefer doing that when I'm doing presentations, for example, which basically is the same process, but it's more visual, it's less like detailed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't like writing, especially that amount is
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot to go through and yeah, sometimes you do have your ideas clear and you start to write them, and that's not the right word to explain, and then especially when you're used to discussing things in one language and you have to write in another one.
You had to write your thesis in French?
No, no, I had to write it in
Okay.
English, but I speak to my
Okay.
supervisor in French.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
there was a bit of both. Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously advantaged in that I am English, so it's easier to write in English, but I don't speak English that much at work.
Okay. Interesting. At least it's good that you don't have to write all that much now in your position. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. If I decide to, then I do, but it's not at all a requirement, so I can get away with it. But equally, having written that, I can't say that I don't know how to write anymore. I've
mm,
learned that if I need to do it, it will
mm,
get done.
mm. So writing the thesis did teach you how to write. That's a good thing.
Well, I
That's a
don't know if
good
it taught me
takeaway.
how to write, but it taught me that if I need to, I will.
Makes sense. Okay, now the best day or one of the best days.
Yeah. For one of the best days, I think possibly the PASC conference this year. The
Ooh.
PASC conference is the Platform for Advanced Scientific Computing conference, and I presented. I mean, it was a bit of a crazy time. I did a presentation for Gisela, which is one of the codes, the fusion codes that I work on,
Hmm.
and I also did a poster for
Oh, yes.
Pyccel, which is an open source code that I work on, which translates Python to Fortran or to C in case you prefer writing Python and your colleagues need Fortran or C, or in case you just need to speed up your Python code. And I won Best Poster, um, which was really nice. But the Best Poster prize in PASC is done on voting. So there is an evening where everybody presents their posters and
Mm-hmm.
people come and speak to you. And if they like what you have to say, they might vote for you. And they get two votes each. And it was really gratifying to see that people came to speak to me because sometimes you can end up at those things and you're stood in the corner and I can't leave in case somebody wants to speak to me, but nobody's here. But there were a lot of people that were interested in what I had to say, and that's reassuring. It makes you see that you're doing something useful. And there were
Yeah.
also people at the beginning, it wasn't getting started very quickly. And there were people that I work in the fusion world that were like, we're coming to see you because it's you, and we need to make sure there's somebody on your stand, so we're here. And it was really nice to see that I have the support in the community and that there were people that were willing to come just because it was me, as well as people that were just interested in what I'm doing. Um, yeah.
That's really nice. And you want both, right? You want
Yeah.
strong connections with people that you've already worked with,
Yeah.
and you want for your topic to be one that diffuses like in a good way, right? That attracts
Yeah.
people to you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because just one or just the other is not great, right?
Yeah,
If people
true.
are interested in what you do, but they really don't like you, that's not great. And if people really want to help you, but what you're doing is useless, that's not great either.
Let's just say you need both to succeed as a
Exactly.
scientist.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Oh, that's a really nice day. I like it. Okay, let's move on to question four. What secret that you've discovered about succeeding in academia or outside, and that you wish more people understood?
I think I would say that the time that you spend outside academia having fun or outside your job is really important. I think a lot of people don't value that time as much as they should. Sometimes people see it as
Mm,
a waste of time. I'm not working towards my goals, and I have this conference coming up. I need to spend all of my time working on this problem, but it doesn't make you work faster. And
no.
changing scenery and doing something else makes a massive difference. I used to work in an automotive company, and
Hmm.
my boss there, so I was a developer, and he used to say, we got off work at 5 o'clock, and he said, I wish that I could tell everybody to go home at 4 o'clock because every morning they spend all morning fixing the bugs that they left in the code after 4 o'clock. And that's the thing, if you're working in anything creative, at some point you get saturated. And I know it happens to me. I spend all day coding and I stay late because I really want to find this bug. And where do I find it? On my bike on the way home.
Yeah, I mean, the number of time where I'm like, this is not working. Why is this not working? And then you stay and you stay and you stay and you just, it doesn't work. And then you go for a 15-minute walk, or you stop for the day, you come back the next day, or you stop and you go on holidays.
Yeah.
And afterwards, as soon as you return, oh, this is the problem. This is the solution. Fresh eyes just make a world of difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And it helps you keep going as well because, I mean, in research, everybody overloads themselves, I think. But you have to find a balance. If you have too much going on, then it doesn't work. But I remember in second year at EPFL, we really get overloaded. We have too many classes, and then we have the practicals to hand in, and then the computational practicals to hand in. It's crazy. That year, I signed up for football, so I
And
had even more stuff. But I think it was the thing that saved me because every Thursday evening I had to think about something else. You can't play football and be thinking about your practical that you need to write. And then we would go out after the
You were
fun.
at my place every single Wednesday that year.
Yeah. Yeah. I did a lot of partying that year. So then like Saturday I just slept. But then on Sunday, I would go back and start working, which I never did the year before because I was
Mm,
fresh and I've had enough space away from it that I can go back
mm,
into the work and get things done. And I think it's really important to have that time away and to have something that engages your attention outside of work.
yeah. And also just spending the time also not alone, but with people that you like is also
Yeah,
very important and making connections outside of research. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I like it. Okay, now let's discuss. What's one thing that bothers you about the system and that you would like to change?
Only
It's
one thing.
your time. Yes, that's the problem, right? There's many
Yeah,
things, but if this like the first point of order for you, the first things that you want to address and you want to get on your soapbox and be like, dang it, people.
yeah. I have a list of three things that really bother me.
Okay, that's fine.
But then there's a difference of amongst the things that bother you, which can you actually change?
Mm,
So, for example, scientific research is generally underfunded and
mm,
underappreciated, which I think is something that's not great. Even when people are starting out, they don't always recognize that they're being underfunded. They don't realize that they could earn more if they're in industry. But I'm not sure that I personally have any way to affect the decisions
mm.
that people in the European Parliament are making about how research is funded. So,
I mean, you
raise
can
awareness, but
raise awareness and vote, but you're basically one of many on that scale for sure.
yeah. But there are other things where you can have more of an effect. Like the
Hmm.
research software engineer scheme is obviously making a difference. But if I had to talk about one thing, maybe I would talk about the publishing system. So in research, we have the system where we have to publish, and we always rely on the same publishers.
Mm,
It's a monopoly, and
hmm.
they get a lot of money out of research that would be better going elsewhere.
And doing very little work
Yeah,
because
they don't do
the
the reviewing, they don't do the writing. Um, with the
it's just
AI, I
crazy.
guess they don't do the editing either. Um, yeah, they get really a lot of money for not very much. But different countries have been starting to take a stand. Maybe you were affected by this, given that you were doing your PhD in Germany. Germany was not subscribed to Elsevier. So I was
Mm,
publishing in Elsevier with German co-authors who
mm.
couldn't read the paper that they'd written.
I also like other solutions, like obviously in physics and in a lot of other fields like computer science, mathematics, etc. There's arXiv, so having the preprint on arXiv makes it available to most people, even though the paper changes a bit after the reviewing.
Yeah.
It's mostly still similar.
There's no way to check on arXiv if, well, I suppose you can spend a lot of time cross-referencing to make sure it was published and was peer-reviewed.
It depends. So, for example, my professor, which is why it hasn't affected me as much, is basically very much against that system as well, and basically then it ends up publishing in a specialized journals, which is called SciPost. So it's just high energy physics
Mhm.
basically, and the board is just high energy physicists basically, and the editors are just high energy physicists doing this as a side thing to their job, and the review process is also quite open. So it's a very nice journal where when you're in that specific branch, and then they end up updating the archive repository
Okay.
with the version of the journal that has the SciPost thing on it. So you
Yeah.
can actually see if it's been published there. But I guess for other journals, then of course it's harder. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of work that's going on to try and break these monopolies. So I have a friend that works in the EPFL library, and she
No.
said that Switzerland were trying to negotiate with, I think, Springer to try and bring the prices down for Switzerland globally, and then to
No.
boycott them if they weren't bringing the prices down.
Mm,
There are a few boycotts that have been going on in Europe, but also as researchers, we can choose where we publish. Um,
exactly.
I mean, it's a little bit difficult because you have all these metrics for when you've published well or not, whether it's been cited enough, and if the journal isn't well known enough, then it won't be cited as much.
Hmm.
But we've had a few discussions about this recently, and I think it's really interesting. So I, for example, have published a few times in the Journal of Open Source Software, which
Hmm.
is fully open source and it's all on GitHub. Um,
Nice.
it's a really strange way of working compared to every other journal, but it's really nice to have something that's completely open source. And a colleague of mine, we recently submitted a manuscript to a brand new journal in France that somebody has
Hmm.
created to try and not be in this publishing system. It's a difficult one to find an equilibrium because
Yeah.
yeah, we had this discussion. He said, I have a permanent position. I am willing to
Yeah.
submit to this. But some of the older researchers are like, but are you sure? Because nobody's going to read it. So in the end, we decided this is a paper that the only people likely to cite it are us. We know that it's there. So we can go ahead and then that will help the journal grow and hopefully in a few years other people could submit there as well.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult to find the balance and to get the ball rolling. People need to be willing to step off the cliff.
And they need to have those options because I feel
Yeah.
this is very, very field specific. Because again, in my field, most people actually just cite the archive, because like,
Really?
yeah, a lot of people just cite things that are on archive because
Yeah.
they also sometimes publish fast and the review process does take a very long time. And then
Yeah.
if you the field is kind of going fast and the review process is going slow, then at some point you if you want to keep things fresh, you cite a lot of things that are actually just on archive.
Okay.
And and we have that option for SciPost, which is actually very nice. But I guess in other fields, especially for example, like I guess in the humanities and things like psychology, I'm not sure that people even have an option. They don't even have archive, right? And
Mm.
and and then I'm not sure how many options these people have as journals, not just well-known ones, but even a small journal that is well run might not even exist.
Yeah. And then someone has to be willing to create it and maintain it.
Yeah. It is definitely a very important point and something that needs more of attention, like
Mm.
everything around publishing. Um, Also the cadence of publishing, which you
Yeah.
alluded to with your position and everything, all of that topic needs a bit of
Yeah.
a system change, maybe overall. So, question 6. What's one person that you look up to or are grateful for on your scientific journey?
Maybe this is a bit of a cliche, but I would definitely say my supervisors.
Yeah.
So, during my master's project, I was supervised by Yaman Güçlü in Munich. He taught me so much about how to approach a scientific problem. He's really, really rigorous, and I know if I really, really get stuck on a problem and I've spent weeks on it and I can't get out, if I explain it to him, we will find the problem because
Oh, that's
there are
cool.
things that you explain and you start off with, yeah, just like explaining your problem. And in that explanation, there will be things that you take for granted. And you'll go, wait, you didn't explain this. Wait, I need to explain that. Oh, hang on. And then you realize what the missing piece is in what you have. And I'm not as good as he is at doing this, but it is something that I can see that needs to be done and it's really good to have that really rigorous mindset.
Yay.
And then while I was doing my PhD, I was supervised by Virginie Grandgirard. And it's really great to have a female supervisor as well,
Yes.
especially in plasma physics and IT domains where there's not that many women. Um,
Yes, I believe you.
yes. But because I'm a woman and she's a woman, we have been in meetings where there were four women and no men. And we looked at each other and we went, I'm not sure this is happening
Victory.
again. This is unusual. Yeah, but it's really nice to have that environment that it's not. I don't think I've ever really considered myself to be at a disadvantage because I'm a woman, because I've generally been surrounded by other women. Well, not surrounded by, but there's always been at least one that I can go, yeah, I can be like her.
That's the thing. I feel somehow in fields that are very male dominated, we end up clustering together a lot more. And it's like there are entire groups that are just men, and then it's very hard to be that first woman who goes there, but
Yeah.
it's much easier to be the second or third one.
Yeah.
And so in the end, we end up clustering in like small groups here and there,
Yeah. But it
being.
doesn't take much to break the silo. So when I
Yeah.
arrived in the CTES group, I was the first scientific woman. So
Mm,
we had the secretaries were women,
yeah.
but in the application support group and in the systems and communications group, there were
Mm,
no women at all. So I arrived as the first woman, and
yeah.
somebody said to me after a bit, I mean, how did they manage with that? Were they not, oh, what's going on, a woman? But their old boss was a woman. So they're used to listening to a woman, and it was a non-issue because somebody had already broken the barrier before I even got there.
Yes.
And since I
Yes.
arrived, then possibly that makes other people more comfortable because now there's three of us.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, but it takes somebody to break in, but
yeah.
sometimes it's not as scary as you think it's going to be. Even if it's all male, if there's been someone there before, even that has an
Yeah.
effect that they know how to behave. Or yeah,
Yeah, and
something
also just
strange.
so like at EPFL, we had a group with a lot of mixed people, like men and women, and it's not a like us versus them debate at
Yeah,
all, right? That's
yeah,
not the point. There are people who know how to interact without making you feel weird,
yeah,
and there are people who don't.
yeah,
And the problem with being the first woman somewhere is that you have to be able to really gauge when you do these interviews, okay, are these people the ones that are making me feel weird as a woman in this group, or are they not? And
On even is there enough of a balance? Because I think there can be one or two that
yeah,
are weird, but if there's enough other men that are willing to push back and support
yeah,
you,
exactly,
then that's not
exactly.
necessarily a problem. You can just say, no, that's not
Mm,
okay. You'll have to deal with that.
true. So basically, men being allies is great. We
Yeah.
need more of them.
Yeah.
I like it. So your two supervisors were very important on your journey. That's great. That's also nice to see someone who has that experience, because this is not everyone's experience.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I got two supervisors and I got two great support systems from it still to this day. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
very
Because I
nice.
still interact with both of them
Uh,
every week.
I love it. You're
I
very
guess the
lucky.
third
I'm very
supervisor
happy.
who I speak to slightly less, but he was important too, but
Uh,
less so than those two.
okay, let's move on to the very last questions. What are your predictions about the future of research in the next 10 years?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, given that I haven't been here for
Yes,
10 years yet. I haven't seen how it's
true.
changed in the last 10 years.
True. Interesting. I did not think about this when I gave the question.
Because I think one of the things that needs to be taken into consideration is the pace of change. So there are things that you
Mm,
see changing already, and you go, well, maybe it'll be done by in 10 years, that's miles
yeah.
off. But I suspect from the 3 or 4 years that I've been here that research doesn't move that fast. So maybe it will take a while.
Mm,
So for example, all the things that I was talking about before with research software engineers, I would
hmm
like to say that in a year or two, that's fine. I mean, all of the infrastructure is there, it's ready, you just need to start using it, but maybe it will take 10 years to be fully baked into the system.
I mean, if it takes less time, it's
I
also
mean, that's the
something
best thing,
that
right?
is a
Yeah.
prediction for the next
Yeah.
10 years. It's fine.
Within the next 10 years, let's say, rather
Exactly.
than or in 10 years. Yeah. Don't want it to take too long. Yeah.
Okay, so let's
And
cross fingers for you that this
yeah.
happens fast.
Yeah, and similarly, the things that we were talking about with publishing, that there are things that are starting to get the ball rolling to work out to
Mm.
do more open source things and things like that. It's moving in the right direction, but at a snail's pace.
So this might take 10 years or even
This
more.
might take more than, yeah. Not sure.
Let's just say it might take 10 years in some fields and it might take more in others.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you with SciPost and you're already most of the way there. Um, but
I
for us,
mean, it's not that everyone publishes in SciPost, right? That's not like that was more of a statement from my supervisor who was
Yeah,
like,
but you
"We're
can.
going to publish every single paper in SciPost."
Yeah, but you can publish in SciPost. You don't feel like you're missing
Yes.
out by publishing in SciPost.
No. No.
Whereas, I can't remember the name of this, the new journal that we're submitting to in France.
No.
Um, there was a big argument about it because
No.
people did feel like you would be missing out on exposure
Mm.
by publishing there. And I think it was started last year, this journal.
Mm.
So currently they've published maybe 4 papers.
Yeah, okay. That's also like a very big difference,
Yeah,
which because SciPost has been around for like it was
10
around
years.
much before I started my PhD, so it's like
Yeah,
it's been at least five, if not 10 years that it's
yeah.
been there. So
So that's what I mean. You need to get past the 5 or 10 years so that they
yeah,
accumulate enough papers that
yeah.
they have statistics so that they can even just to be able to be on Clarinet or the different tools that people use to
Mm.
evaluate how well people's research output is going.
Yeah. Okay, so let's hope and push for those changes.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share about what you do? Anything that you wanted to link? I mean, I will link to your LinkedIn account for sure, but whatever else that you wanted to share,
I don't know.
feel
I
free.
could publicize Pyccel.
Yes, please do.
Yeah,
Please
I have a
do.
LinkedIn page for Pyccel as well now. Um,
Ooh,
so
I
yeah,
can link
I
that
think I
as well.
mentioned it earlier, but Pyccel is a tool if you're writing Python code and you're supposed to be writing C or Fortran code, which I think is the case for a lot of people that work in HPC as scientists and that are new to the domain. And they
Mm,
tell you you need to be writing Fortran code, and you go, yeah, 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 and you write Python code until it's working, and then when it's working, you have to translate it. And Pyccel can do the translation for you,
that's so
which
cool.
helps speed things up, and then it gives you the interface back to Python, so you can keep your tests in Python, you can keep your plotting tools, and
Oh
still build the
wow.
same code.
Oh
Um,
wow. And but so how long have you been working on this?
As I started during my master's project, so it was
Aha.
originally developed by Ahmed Ratnani, who worked at the Technische Universität at Munich, because he was doing exactly that. He was a mathematician, he was writing code in Python,
Uh,
and then at some point he had to hand it off to his colleagues that were writing the simulations in Fortran,
uh,
and the translation was a bottleneck,
uh,
and it introduced bugs. So he developed Pyccel, and then my master's project was to write a plasma simulation in Python and run it using Pyccel in a
mm,
HPC environment. And so I ran at almost Fortran speeds and got good performance from a code that's in Python. Um,
wow.
which, yeah, if you run, when you compare them really side by side, you can get like a 200 times speed up sometimes. It makes a massive difference. Um, yeah, but I did that, and then there were still things in the code that weren't entirely clean. There weren't as many tests as there should be, or the tests checked that it compiled, but not that it gave the right result. Um, things like that. And Yaman, who I mentioned earlier, he went through and cleaned everything up a lot. And then I've been contributing since then, and now I'm more or less the main developer to try and add new functionalities and to make sure everything's properly tested and robust and works well. And at the moment, we've been adding several new things. There's a new version coming out soon with some big new functionalities.
Ooh. So basically, if anyone likes to code in Python but needs Fortran speed, please go and check out Pyccel.
Yeah.
And thank Emily for your progress in saving up time and energy on the clusters. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. It was so nice to talk to you. I'm very
Thank you for
happy that
having
we
me.
got to do this.
Perfect.
Thanks for watching this Chatty Monday interview with Emily Bourne. If you liked this interview, I'm planning on doing a lot more of those in the future with academics or people who help academics. So if that sounds like something that you want to hear a lot more about, please like, subscribe, hit the bell so that you get notified every time that I release a video like this. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!